You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
GOP pushback mounts as signs of post-Trump Republican Party begin to emerge, based on an article by Thomas Kika. The GOP is not leaving Trump. It is trying to survive him, a thin story of distance. The source story is simple enough. A USA Today podcast treated a handful of Senate Republicans pushing back on Trump-backed priorities as evidence that the party may be drifting toward a post-Trump future. The examples were familiar. Resistance to Todd Blanche's nomination, objections to a Justice Department anti-weaponization fund tied to an IRS settlement with the Trumps, hesitation around Trump's Save America Act, and John Thune's claim that the Senate votes are not there. That is the context. The political meaning is less flattering. Who actually has power? Trump still holds the real leverage. The article says it plainly. His endorsement remains exceedingly powerful, and he still has broad support in the base. That is the core fact. A few senators can slow a bill. Trump can still shape the party's incentives. So when reporters frame this as a sign of Republican independence, they are exaggerating the capacity of a few institutional holdouts and understating the party's continued submission to Trump's authority. The GOP is not experiencing a clean break. It is experiencing internal negotiation inside a movement Trump still dominates. The pushback is not a moral awakening. John Cornyn and Tom Tillis objected to a set of priorities that were politically ugly, even by Republican standards. A fund created through a settlement involving the Trumps, and a tax audit immunity deal that predictably stank of elite protection. The resistance is being sold as evidence of principle. That is too generous. This is not evidence that Senate Republicans have discovered Democratic scruples. It is evidence that some of them know where the line is between tolerable corruption and embarrassing corruption. They resist when the arrangement is too naked, too personalized, or too easy to explain to voters and colleagues. That is not reformist virtue. It is damage control, misdirection as method. The softer problem in the source framing is that it treats Trump's agenda as a set of priorities drifting through normal legislative channels, as if the issue were mere friction between a president and his caucus. That washes out responsibility. Trump is not some external force visiting inconvenience on an otherwise healthy party. The party built the incentives that let him keep control. Its senators enabled him, its leadership accommodated him, and its supposed dissent usually arrives only when the cost becomes immediate. Even then, the article itself notes that the disagreement may be temporary, with the midterms left as the real test. That is the wrong frame. The test has already happened. The party failed it repeatedly and is now bargaining over the leftovers. What this really reveals: this story is not about the birth of a post-Trump Republican Party. It is about a party trying to preserve Trump's authoritarian energy while trimming the most self-incriminating edges. One chamber can stall a bill. A few senators can object. But as long as Trump controls the base and his endorsement still carries weight, the GOP remains organized around him, not after him. That is the larger pattern. American institutions keep mistaking tactical resistance for democratic redemption. They should stop. The Republican Party is not being healed by internal dissent. It is being managed around its own crisis of illegitimacy. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Leibritz R. Thanks for listening.